Well, welcome both of you. I'm really pleased today to be joined by Emma Shepherd of Let's Talk Disability and Andy Villalba of Status Employment. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Robert Elston, Chief Executive of Status Employment. We thought today would be really good to be talking about what's the good personal characteristics of an entrepreneur facilitator. And I'm going to start off with this conversation by saying it's often been said that an entrepreneur facilitator needs to be a planner, an assessor, a salesman, a trainer, a coordinator, a counselor, a mentor, and a negotiator, all combined in one person. Is that statement correct, do you reckon, Emma?
Well, I think that facilitator needs to be all of that and more. It's not just really about having any kind of formal qualifications. I just want to add that, but I think what it is, it's about having the right mentality and the creativity to, support, somebody. Because sometimes you might be mainly good cop, but sometimes you might need to be bad cop. So you might need to say, like, come on, I need to get this from you. Come on, you must, let's get this done. So you might want to motivate and you can prompt, but you've got to be approachable, really, at the end of the day, and not squash ideas if somebody's coming out with something. They could have been told no for most of their lives, like, no, you are unable to do this. No, you cannot achieve this. No, you can't have this. And then what you have to be is that person that's saying, yes, actually, you know what, I really believe in you. And, I know that we can do this and we're going to go on this journey together. So you have to be approachable. So when they have an idea, you can realistically look at it and say, okay, does this actually work? And if it does, how do you think that might work for you? So yeah, they have to have all of those qualities and more.
Andy, what's your as doing the job as an entrepreneur facilitator? What are your views on this?
Well, I would look at it as a person is doing facilitating and doing this as a support worker. Could be a jack of all trades and could be a master of none, maybe a master of none. However, as important as that, this person must be a people person, a person that could be with different types of people and making them comfortable with them, and as well as comfortable being with them, with candidates.
I think what both of you are saying in one sense of being a really good communicator is incredibly important for this, and to be open and honest and to be able to facilitate people to their goals and their dreams. And from what I'm gathering from both of you is that being really, really organised would be incredibly important. Would that be true?
Yes, absolutely. Because, as I say, it's not just about the communication, it's absolutely key. But then also looking at it from a networking point of view, that you might need to go to somebody else, for example, if you don't know somebody. And, like really passionate, about that role. And as I said earlier, it's like, if you see a barrier, it's like, how can you creatively overcome that barrier and not just see that barrier and say, like, actually, like, no, and I don't know what to do now. And that, that is it. It's about still encouraging that person to move forward. And by really getting to know them as well, will allow you to know and understand what their skills are.
Yeah, I think that you bring a really, really good point. Is that I've worked in the disability world for far too long. This is why I joke I've always got the grey hair. But one of the biggest things I've always fought against is low expectations. And I think it's a real issue for anyone getting a job. But I think as regards self-employment, it's a massive issue. And I always think of the story that I'd heard Laura Green, who runs Serendipity, and anyone who doesn't know, Laura is a young woman with Down syndrome who owns her own shop in Runcorn, and she now employs not only her sales staff, but she's also employs a personal advisor as well. And Laura, when she was told about doing this, and she said she wanted to run a shop, she was always told, don't be silly, almost like know your place. You could actually do a job in a charity shop for someone if you wish. And she really sort of thought to herself, no, I don't want to do that. I actually want to run her own shop. And she always described her success as being in spite of everyone. And I always felt really awful of thinking, well, it shouldn't be in spite of everyone. It's my view that, low expectations is a real killer with it. Emma, I know you're really good at this, but how do you actually deal with low expectations?
It's about building confidence and really believing in somebody. There's somebody who I'm helping at the moment, and he just constantly says to me, he says, you see something in me that nobody else does. Because I do really, really believe in him. And also, when we have met some of the candidates that we have supported into self-employment before, just always like blown away by how amazing and how imaginative they are and the ideas that they've come up with. So, for example, there's a couple of examples. There was one lady who wanted to do a bling lock. So essentially it was about if you were on the tube or the train, and it was about an encrusted padlock to be able to keep your belongings safe in your handbag. I'd never thought of that. That was amazing. And likewise, there was another lady, because of the condition that she had, she had real weakness in one of her shoulders. So she wanted to make a different kind of like bra strap and clasp, which would allow her to be able to wear that bra. But then it would serve a really good purpose for people, maybe if they've had a stroke or they have any other kind of weakness, in their shoulders or hands, to be able to use it. So it goes back to encouraging and believing and not shutting somebody down once they come up with an idea. You could potentially make an idea more realistic once you work through it, which would actually work and suit them better. But just don't ever say no.
I would totally, Emma, I would totally agree. I mean, it sort of, that reminded me very much of one particular lady who had come to us, and she wanted to be a wedding planner. And she had Down syndrome, and we decided to look and see what part of wedding planning could she be. Well, I went down all the lines of different things and different areas, and one of the times I spent a whole Saturday seeing whether she could be part of sort of the team of sort of setting up the wedding day, which she proudly boasted to me at the end of the day when she looked at me and said, this type of hard work, it's just not for me. I don't want to do this at all. I want to be the boss. And she roundly put me in my place for even thinking about this. And I was very fortunate that I was speaking to an employer, and an employer said, I love her opinions. She has wonderful opinions on everything. Why doesn't she become a blogger? And that's why in the end we ended up with a blog around how a person with learning disability and Down syndromes could plan their own wedding. And I think often there's a place for a person, and you're so right, it's not about saying no. It's looking at how you can actually use the information you've got from someone and help devise their business. I mean, it's for me, I have a belief that, success is about raising expectations and overcoming those barriers. And we have to identify solutions. We've got to inspire, and we've got to cajole and enforce. Otherwise, those qualities we can't underestimate. Andy, do you have any sort of things where, some of the candidates where you've helped them overcome that sort of expectations where they say, I can't do this? I know when I first talked to you with Megan, and Megan had that belief that she would never be able to do this. Can you explain how you actually got her over that sort of lack of confidence?
I'm 100% with Emma in the belief of one's belief to a candidate is important. It is as important as believing in the business itself that they're trying to, and as well as that they're trying to accomplish or to gain, as well as believing as well of the sector that they're planning to engage with. So it's more of this three factors: believing that this candidate can really do this, and as well as believing that this business is going to work, and as well as believing that the sector that they're in, the business sector that they're in, has got a lot of excitement, and all of that excitement would be the driver for this candidate to move on and really achieve what they would like to achieve.
That's good, and I think that sort of brings me on to another point, and often when we first started, one of the first bits of advice that me and Emma, or Emma and I, had been given was that you mustn't stop people coming in and judge what is a good business. As someone said to me, you've only got to look at the high street. There are hundreds of shops, and many shops you walk past and think, I'd never go in there and look for an item in there. And someone with you would say, oh, look at that shop, isn't it brilliant? And I think that does bring a point, is sort of, we've always done with our schemes of having a no rejection policy of people coming in. We wanted to have that entrepreneur facilitator. But then we do need to look at how we ascertain whether a person is that possible entrepreneur, and at the same time look at the support the client will need. And I think this is really a question for Emma, is how do you think the best way of actually doing that? And I'm thinking back to some of our planning interviews and how we assessed and what was the important things for us when we were looking at that.
Well, there's a couple of ways I'm going to answer that. One of them is when we did actually do those pathway interviews, or let's say pathway meetings, because interview probably sounds a bit too heavy. We were really blown away with the ideas that people had, and we never judged them. We might ask them to try and explain something a little bit more. And as I say, some of the things were like Ottoman history, and which I didn't know what it was at the time. Amazing ideas, and I came away absolutely inspired myself. But then the other way to actually drill down into it is that it's still about having a supported employment model based around it. So it's about taking time with that person and looking at it from a vocational profiling point of view, in terms of like, who is, what are their aspirations, what are their skills, what do they want to do, and spending a long time getting to know them. And then another part of that fidelity model is about employer engagement. Now, in order to move along in their journey towards self-employment, as you said, it's about maybe that they need to go and get some practical work experience to go and give them the real skills. So for example, when we had, a florist, when she was getting some work experience in a florist, she learned about how to, really care for flowers, how to make more modern flower arrangements. So these are the kind of things that she learned. And likewise, if there's something that you don't know or can't do, we've worked with employers to get that information. So a really good example is somebody who wanted to make a doll for sort of autistic children, and through our employer engagement, we met a chap who had sort of like a 3D printer and was able to make prototypes, which is something that, I wouldn't be able to do, but I will go out and network, and I will be able to find somebody who can. So, as I say, there's sort of two different areas in which I've answered you.
But actually, it's good because it's almost like a seamless segue, this, because I was actually going to go on to that bit about sort of how important I believe that a good entrepreneur facilitator needs to be able to network, needs to be able to be known in the community, needs to be able to go around and ask things. And I remember that whole essence of that 3D printer story of, it was yourself who'd done the reverse job fair and inviting me there, who'd managed to get talking to someone, and then at a later stage thinking, I know he's exactly the man I need to speak to regards the 3D printer. But I think this is really important for an entrepreneur facilitator. You must be able to network. It is a very complex working arena, because you've got to combine the interest of the entrepreneur. We've talked about it today. We've even just talked about dog walking and bra clasps, and I mean, you can't get more diverse than there's two areas, and it's impossible to actually underestimate how little you will know of maybe your people that you're supporting about their major businesses. Andy, I think it would be good to actually at this part is to explain a little bit about some of your candidates, about the five that you've been working with, is the particular businesses that they've all been doing, and really that hand on heart, how much you know about each particular business and what you've had to do to try and find out some information about that.
Well, as a start, really, I don't have much of that clue of the business itself.
Yeah, so could you explain a little bit about the businesses that your clients, your candidates?
Well, one, which is at the moment they're all business ready. One is fashion design. For it's selling making designs and selling fashion shirts and leather facilities, equipments of this design. So it's more of a I would say
punk, isn't it?
Fashion, a punk fashion design that would be produced and sell. So that's one. The other one is a dog walking, which is you mentioned earlier. Which she's already got clients and she's doing the dog walking business. The third one is virtual admin solutions. So it's more of doing admin in a remote or remotely. And the fourth one is the party events coordinator business, which means that of all aspects of a party or an event, this business is going to provide from the decorations, from the planning, and all of that.
So you got really four very diverse businesses, and I presume your knowledge of punk fashion is
zero.
So I mean, you know, and I'm not sure whether you even have a dog and you're dog walking. So it brings a challenge to you. So I mean, I think that's the point is you have to learn very quickly about these businesses to be able to help people. So you've done a lot of studying, haven't you, about various things to help all your candidates here?
Yeah, I think it's more of that interest that you're trying to put forward to the candidates, and with that interest, myself as a support worker and the candidate go together with that excitement, with that interest to achieve the business. So which means that if there is something that is needed, then you put that on the table that both of you can actually work on, and that keeps that going until they become.
And I remember there was one stage where, with the Megan, who is the dog walker, is you arranged in these COVID times for a Zoom conference between the dog walker and another dog walker who's established in their business, to actually sort of swap tips. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, it would also mean that the candidate would have a big sister,
A mentor, to say.
A mentorship to mentor her with regards to moving forward with the business itself. That was the idea about this, and moving forward with this, it's creating as well a trade organization, which is at this point of time, this is what they're working together with the mentor, which is the dog worker with a bigger business who's already been established business. So I think with that, having that mentor as well as moving forward with making the whole of the network of the business bigger. So I think mentorship and getting it on a bigger scale is the direction that Megan, or the dog walker, the dog sitter, or this business is heading to.
I've got a question for you now, Emma. I'm going to put you on the spot a bit. I know a fantastically competent manager you are, and I just wonder whether you have any tips for entrepreneur facilitator support workers managers. I mean, is there any tips out there you think when you're looking to actually employ someone?
Yes, so it's all about, assuming that they're already employed, but it's all about, encouraging, that person. So they might actually come to you to be able to, ask you a question. But it's about like having supervisions and having appraisals and putting those as objectives, so that you do have a certain level of expectation from them as well. But then also driving it through with quality, so that, if you have perhaps helped somebody do a business plan, look at it yourself and, make sure that it's good. Because it's very much, I think, in terms of with supported employment, you would say that everybody with the right support will be able to work. And likewise, the same would be for that self-employment, about them being able to work. So you have to make sure that you have good staff to facilitate all of that. So it is, encouraging them. It is looking at the quality. It's providing opportunities. It's believing in them, giving them autonomy to be able to, go and work with somebody, and having a belief in them and trust in them that they will be able to get on with that role. And should they have any questions, that they can come back and ask, and I would be able to help them, with my knowledge and the experience that I have.
I also think one of the big things for me is sometimes is because it's so hard, this and even in normal terms, businesses fail. Most businesses fail rather than succeed at the beginning. I think a big one is actually celebrating that success as well. Okay. I always find that's incredibly important. Are there anything obvious things to avoid? I know for me, one of them, what I would say, is trying to make sure that the workload isn't too heavy. This is a very sort of innovative thing to be doing, and you need to be able to have someone to give proper time to this.
Yeah, so I mean, if you would adjust somebody's caseload, which would give them capacity to do that, but also, not necessarily thinking that somebody's going to have, a formal qualification in supporting somebody into business. I mean, yes, it's quite handy, but there's like plenty of other skills to be looking out for. And really, it is that individual who has that entrepreneurial spirit is the one that you're looking for, not somebody who has a degree in setting up a business. It really is driven by that person, and somebody who rises to a challenge and doesn't see a barrier as an issue. Somebody who can be target driven. I guess, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Very quickly, I'm going to move on a little bit, Andy. As the entrepreneur facilitator, is there anything that the manager has forgotten at all in the skills that you think that you need? I'm actually, while you're doing this, I'm going to be sharing a screen to actually show you what I think there are some of the things that that I think a entrepreneur facilitator should have. So could you say what you think we might have missed?
Well, I think the most important thing, the whole of this program for a facilitator to enable them to deliver the work of a facilitator towards the candidate more effective is that making that interest alive all the time. But the way I look at it, it's more of a learning process for both the facilitator as well as the candidate. Both of you are learning, and because of that learning process, there is that excitement of getting in towards achieving success. So if one could put that interest forward all the time between the facilitator and the candidate, then that would drive the whole of this connection between the facilitator and the candidate towards success. So it's the interest that that would drive this towards a ready business, as I would put it.
Thank you. I'd put this up because we'd done this map, and part of this map was to sort of give an idea to people what skills. What I thought was incredibly important was not for people to think that a person has to have all of these things, and it doesn't always have to be a professional. I just was important is that these are the skills I felt that an entrepreneur facilitator needed. But it could actually be a parent, it could actually be a friend, it could be someone who is a colleague. But a lot of these things is that what you're wanting, I think this is what I've hoped we've actually explained today, is that this idea that a person probably does need to have good negotiation skills. They might not know employment law and business planning, but I'd like them to think that they would have the gumption to actually go there and get that. I think most good entrepreneur facilitators people are people who are fairly good at sales and marketing. Certainly if they've run their own business. Information, advice and guidance, often I think that sort of gives it a sort of really clever side, but actually it's people who are actually willing to actively listen, I think, and actually give good guidance and actually be a critical friend. I know I've had situations where I've had to be with people, be a critical friend. It's not always made me popular, but actually sometimes it's helped grow the business. And all the skills, the assessment and planning skills, many times I remember as often I'd work with women returning to work and trying to explain it, all the assessment and planning skills that they would have normal at their fingertips. And again, it could be a friend who's doing that. But I think one of the most important aspects is that entrepreneur spirit is you cannot do this if you do not believe in this sort of entrepreneurship. I think that's a given for any person who's going to help someone. And I think, all of these things, like we've gone through the network and relationship skills. And again, if you're going to do anything, you need to do the financial planning. So if you're doing even the simplest sort of plan, you need to look and see how much is this going to cost, how much are we going to sell it for, and will we make a profit? Is there anything I missed, you think, on this map, or is because I was getting too full and I was thinking it was too much, but is there anything that I've missed? Oh, and look at that. That's Zoom telling me I'm running out of time. Perfect. I probably think I think with that, Zoom is probably saying that we probably do have to sort of come to an end of this. But is there anything else I've missed with this?
Confidence, I think.
Yeah.
Confidence just to go and try something that you don't know.
And in addition to confidence, I would say the belief of the support worker to the candidate, a belief of the business, the belief as well to the sector where this business is going through. I think these are the three important parts that needs to be considered in terms of having a good facilitator for entrepreneurship.
I think on that, I think we can say thank you both. It's been wonderful talking to you, and I hope it's been instructive to people. Thank you very much.
Thank you.